Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Movies You Missed Podcast, episode 94. Certainly hope you enjoyed episode 93, where we had nothing but a blast talking about Tropic Thunder and Dodgeball. V, how are you today?
I'm doing well, John, and I'm looking forward to this episode today.
I think this episode is going to be a blast, just like last year's. If you've been following us from the beginning, you know that last year at the end of January, we did a 2022 cinematic wrap-up. Not an Oscar wrap-up, not an awards wrap-up, a wrap-up of the movies that V and I both saw that we enjoyed, we somewhat enjoyed, and that we hated. And we made a list of movies that you should miss, movies that you could miss, and movies that you absolutely should not miss. Well, we are here a year later doing that again for the year of 2023, and I'm very excited because my list is pretty long.
And we watched a lot of different movies this year, so I think between the two of us, there's a lot of good recommendations for our audience in there.
I completely agree. Looking forward to it very much. If you are brand new, though, to Movies You Missed Podcast, just a brief rundown of who we are and what we do here. We do like to recommend movies. We do not spoil them. We like to give you a little bit of trivia, a little bit of background on the production of said movie that V and I each choose to discuss each episode. This one is a little bit different since we are going over the year of 2023. Next week, though, we will be bringing you two new movies to get back into the swing of things. And V and I also spent 25 years collectively in the entertainment industry in multiple different areas, production mostly on my side and stunts and special effects on V's side. So we're very excited for this last year of 2023 since there were a lot of really good movies and there were some really bad ones too. But before we do that, we do like to discuss the movies that we saw in theaters or on streaming this week. V, I'm not sure if you saw anything. I sure did.
And this time we're serious. They are the last movies of 2023 that we saw.
Indeed they are. However, though, since the Oscars are coming up, there will be some other 2023 movies to discuss. Since I have not seen all of the Best Picture nominees, I've actually seen 5 of the 10. So I'm looking forward to checking out those other 5, except for one of them because V, you said it was god-awful.
That's right. And make sure to catch our Oscars recap episode coming in March, because that's where we'll discuss all of those nominees and also movies we wish were nominated.
Yeah, exactly. The snubs. There's going to be a couple of them. And like we said, we're going to discuss some of the movies that we saw either in theaters or streaming this week. V, I don't think you saw anything over the last week.
Unfortunately, no, I didn't have time to go to the theaters this week, but I am happy to hear that you saw a couple more 2023 movies.
I did, and I will start with the first one that I watched over the last few days. I watched this on Netflix. This is an Oscar nominee for Best International Feature Film titled La Sociedad de la Nieve. If I'm pronouncing any of that incorrectly, please forgive me. In English, that is translated to Society in the Snow. This movie is about a plane crash that happens from Uruguay on its way to Chile with a rugby team, and it becomes a crazy story of survival based on a true story. If I had known there was a book before watching this movie, I would have read the book, but this movie is 2.5 hours long. Via, this reminded me actually when we started talking about The Revenant years ago about how uncomfortable this experience of watching a movie was.
Yes.
I don't know how they did this movie, but they did this masterfully. This movie is absolutely an Oscar nominee. Wonderfully acted. The music is fantastic. It is heartbreaking. I cried multiple times watching this movie, but it is absolutely a masterful piece of cinema. Check this movie out, Society of the Snow, based on a true story, an intense survival epic. It's brutal. It's gruesome. Watch this fucking movie.
Awesome. And so where would it go on your recap list this year?
Oh, this is a movie that you cannot miss. Absolutely. 100%. Nice. After watching that heavy movie, I decided to check out a movie that was actually nominated for Best Cinematography at the Oscars that are coming up in March. This movie is called El Conde. This is from Chile. This is about a 250-year-old vampire. And I gotta tell you, this movie was fucking awesome. It's pretty brutal. It's actually very funny, but it is a completely different vampire movie than anything I've seen in the last 20 years. Shot in black and white, which really brought a lot of it to the forefront for me. So if, again, you don't mind reading subtitles and you're one of those people like V and myself who likes to watch a lot of the nominees for the Oscars this year, give this movie a shot. I would say this could be on my could-miss list only because it's not going to be for everybody. It's a bit of a slow burn. V, I think you'd enjoy it too. There's a lot of very funny moments, but there's a lot of really surprising, very bloody, violent moments as well.
Acquired taste movie, then.
Yes, absolutely. 100% an acquired taste.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are the two movies that I watched over the last week, and now I think it's time to dive into our lists of the 2023 movies that you could miss, should miss, or should not miss.
Yes, let's do it. And for our audience, we will be talking about all of the movies that we saw in 2023, and there's a good number of them. And so make sure to, if you're not already, follow us on social media. We will be posting these lists of the movies you can't miss, could miss, or should miss. And so you'll have references of these lists that we talk about.
Hell yeah. We're going to do things a little bit differently, though, this year. We're going to each discuss the movies that we feel you should miss together instead of doing separate lists like we did the last time. And then after that, we will each get into our lists of movies that you could miss and then the movies that you absolutely should not miss. And similarly to last year, we will save our top 3 or top 5 for the final minute or two of this episode to see if V and I agree on our favorite movies of 2023. We're also adding a new category. It's going to be movies you missed award category here for the year 2023. So stay tuned for that after we get through the movies that you cannot miss. And similarly to last year, I will begin this episode with the movies that I absolutely hated that I feel you as a listener and an observer should absolutely miss. So let's get into it with a movie that I saw actually one very late night. I truthfully don't know why I went and saw this movie because I saw the trailer, and the trailer pretty much was the movie. This is a movie based on a comedian's life. I couldn't tell you what the comedian's name was. That's how forgettable this movie was. But this movie was called The Machine. This movie also starred Mark Hamill as the father of this comedian. Mark Hamill was the funnier part of the movie, but the movie really was not that great. And neither was the trailer. It was not very entertaining at all. Some people liked
trailer.
it. Yeah, the trailer was all right. There were a lot of red band trailers for it. Overall, though, I really didn't like the movie very much. So I would say that is my first one of movies that you should miss. V, I don't think you saw The Machine.
I didn't. It really didn't seem like it was up my alley when I saw the trailers. I think we saw one of the trailers together, actually.
I believe we did, yes.
And yeah, it just didn't spark my interest at all, so I'm glad I missed it.
Yeah. I went because I have the Regal Pass, and I was like, I'll give it a shot, and there was nothing funnier than what was in the trailer, so it's a movie you definitely can miss if you haven't seen it. You're not missing anything.
And my first movie on this list, and the reason why it's first is because it's on the cusp. It could be on the movies you could miss list of the year. Someone could convince me otherwise.
All right.
But I put Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 on my movies you should miss list.
Oh, wow. Interesting. A Marvel movie.
Oh, there were a lot of bad comic book movies this year that we are going to get into.
Absolutely.
It just really didn't do it for me. I know there were some very poignant moments in the film, but overall, it was just a bit messy and didn't really care for it. So that's my first movie on the should miss list.
All right. Well, there you go. I think some people would try to convince you otherwise.
Agreed.
Yes. My second one is a movie that I saw the trailer for several times. The trailer didn't look good. I was going to see it in theaters because of my Regal Pass, but I didn't. So I watched about an hour of it on Hulu and turned it off because it was so terrible. This is Five Nights at Freddy's. Don't watch that movie. Unless you played the video game and I'm missing something completely, you're free to tell me in a DM or in a comment anywhere on social media. But yeah, I lasted an hour and I did not like it. I would say that is a movie that you can absolutely miss.
And the order in which we're listing these movies are ranked in terms of terribleness, right? Like, these movies are getting worse and worse for both of us, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
yes.
Great.
So far, I've started out with the two that I didn't hate the most.
Yes.
But I still didn't enjoy very much.
Same. Okay, great.
Even though I didn't finish Five Nights at Freddy's.
Well, my next movie you're going to be a little upset by because I did put Fast X in the movies
of course
you
did.
should miss category.
I knew that was coming. I knew it.
That movie's just awful. It's ridiculous. It's not as bad as Fast 9 because they actually didn't go to space. But otherwise, the best part about the Fast franchise at this point is the How to Get Made specials on the movies.
100% agree. All right, moving along with my list. This one, I only put on this because the theatrical experience was so god-awful for me, and I still have been meaning to rewatch it, and I might over the next few days because it's now streaming on HBO Max in 4K. I'm talking about the Jason Statham sequel, The Meg 2, The Trench. It was, from what I recall, really not good, but I also had a really terrible theatrical experience, so as of now, it's on my movies you should miss list. But like V, I could be convinced otherwise if I watch it in the quiet of my own home. We'll see what happens in the future.
Good luck with that. This is a movie I will definitely be missing, so no worries. The next two, and you'll understand quickly why I'm listing them both together, they're both directed by the same man.
Okay.
They're both Guy Ritchie films.
Oh,
A director who I usually adore, who I talk about a lot on this show, who I've
Yes.
loved almost all of his movies, but man, did he just strike out both times in 2023. He directed another Jason Statham film, Operation Fortune,
right.
and a Jake Gyllenhaal film called The Covenant.
Oh, yes.
Both were bad, and so both are on my movies you should miss list.
I didn't see either of them, so I don't know how to feel or what an opinion I would have on them is, but I do want to see them both, so we'll see what I think.
You're not missing anything if you don't.
All right. Well, then maybe I won't. Maybe I'll have you take 2 for the team on that one.
There we go.
My next movie is a Marvel movie, and this one, I don't want to say it's the worst Marvel movie I've seen, but it's teetering on the worst Marvel movie I've seen.
No, because you watched Thor: Love and Thunder, remember?
That's why, yeah, right, exactly. That's why I'm saying I don't think this is the worst Marvel movie, but it might be the second worst Marvel movie.
Right.
Well, maybe the third, because Iron Man 2 was pretty god-awful also. I'm talking about the Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Jonathan Majors, whose career is now over, Ant-Man Quantumania. What a pile of absolute garbage piece of shit that movie was. I watched it at home, and my wife and I, somehow we made it through the whole thing, but we really should have turned it off. That was one of the worst Marvel movies I've ever seen.
And you are absolutely right. Unfortunately, Jonathan Majors' career is over, not only because of his recent criminal problems, but also because he has 2 movies on the movies you absolutely should miss lists of this year. Quantumania, like you just said, and also Creed 3. God, that was so disappointing. What a terrible movie that was. But yeah, that's also on my should miss list of the year.
Yeah.
The next movie I really didn't like, even though I know you did, was Silent Night. A late addition to our list. It came out in December of 2023. There were just too many plot holes for me, and I couldn't get into caring about the characters enough. I watched the whole movie. It was in the theater, but unfortunately it landed on my movies you should miss list.
I remember I was a little upset that you didn't like that one, because we
Yeah,
were both
I know.
really excited about it.
We were. Now I
It
have
happens.
to find another violent movie for the first week of December this year.
Absolutely. I'm sure you'll be able to. My next one is actually a movie you and I saw together very early on last year, starring Adam Driver and other people that I couldn't tell you. 65, the sci-fi dinosaur future movie. You can miss that one if you haven't seen it already.
It's much lower on my list. It's actually listed as the second worst movie of the year for me, so it's down a little bit further. But yes, that is also on my list as well.
Yeah, I remember we walked out of there being like, I guess that wasn't good. No. The special effects were kind of, no, not really. Did you care? I didn't give a fuck about anybody in that movie.
No.
Yeah, that wasn't very good.
Agreed. And so I guess it's back to me then, and I have a DC movie listed. On this list, which I know you have a DC movie on your list.
I most certainly do.
But mine is a sequel. It is Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
Oh, yeah.
Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu couldn't even save that film.
Well, hey, that's your opinion, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. My next movie is a movie that I don't know who the hell thought it would be a good idea to give this fucking idiot $2 million to make this piece of shit movie that is nothing but shots of door jams and door handles and carpet in hallways.
I know what movie this is.
Yeah, this is a movie that also has a dumb fucking name called Skinamarink. Fuck this movie. No, this movie is absolute horseshit. And if this guy moves on to make any other movies, I might stop watching horror movies. I'm not really going to stop watching horror movies, but I'm never going to watch another movie with this guy's name on it. That's for sure.
I remember you hating that movie because it's 10 minutes of just a door, right? It's like,
yeah, and oddly enough,
not scary, boring horror movie.
No, not scary, not even remotely fascinating or interesting. You know, I get it. Be avant-garde, be different with your camera angles and stuff. This movie had nothing going on in it. I also fast-forwarded like 8 minutes just to see if anything would happen, and it was the same fucking shot. I thought my streaming service froze. This is not a good movie. And anybody that thinks otherwise, get a lobotomy for crying out loud.
They already have one, apparently.
Apparently so. V, what's your next pick?
Mine is more of a thriller than a horror movie.
Okay.
We both just watched it the other week. It's not terrible, but it just wasn't.
Apparently it's bad enough.
Yeah, it just was bad enough, exactly. And I'm talking about the movie Self-Reliance.
Oh, that's on a should-miss list. Interesting.
I could be convinced otherwise. I mean, I guess I should have put it higher on my list because I could be convinced otherwise because it had an interesting plot.
Yeah.
The idea for the movie's cool, but I didn't care enough about the actors to worry about whether or not they were gonna survive.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Now, my next movie is a horror movie, or a horror comedy, if you will. I did make a reel about the fact that I enjoyed most of it. And I remember talking, V, to you about how I liked it because of the way that possession is used in this movie. Now, while I still think that that was a cool idea for possession, this movie, after thinking about it for a while and doing a little bit of research on it, I ended up actually really not liking it. And I'm talking about Talk to Me, which is a movie about possession. And it's really more of a comedy and just a movie that you can miss. Don't watch it. You know, unless you have a foot fetish and you like making out with your dog, this is a movie for you. If you don't like any of those other things, then don't watch this movie. This is prime example why a lot of YouTube people should just stay on YouTube. Apparently the writers and directors of it are YouTube stars, and I'm not big on the YouTube thing, so I didn't know who these two guys were. And apparently there's a sequel coming. Now, while the ending of the movie was cool, no, miss it. Don't bother.
Okay.
Yeah. I should delete my reel because I remember I watched the reel recently. I was like, oh man, I actually talked this movie up. The movie sucks.
Okay. Revisiting things.
Indeed.
So now we're getting to some of my most hated films of the year, as we talked about.
Yes.
65 is certainly on the list, so I'll gloss over that since we just discussed it. But this movie is now an Oscar-nominated film.
Oh boy.
It has turned me off from its star, its writer, and its director, because that's all the same man.
Right.
I am talking about Bradley Cooper's Maestro.
Hey.
That movie pissed me off. It was so bad.
I'm going to have to watch it, unfortunately, since it is nominated for several things at the
It
Oscars.
is nominated for several things, and what makes me even more upset about that fact is that it took nominations away from a likely contender, which is The Iron Claw.
Yes, absolutely.
The Iron Claw should have taken every single nomination that Maestro has instead.
Oh, wow.
The script was bad. His acting was terrible. Even Carey Mulligan's performance that everybody's hyping up, there were 2 good scenes that I could see people got really emotional with her about. Otherwise, from start to finish, this movie is not good and absolutely should be skipped by everyone.
All right. Unfortunately, I will have to watch it because my whole thing is watching all the Best Picture nominees. Mm-hmm. So I will either suffer through it or it'll be one of those movies that you and I completely disagree on.
It might, but I certainly know that you will be watching it on one of the days I'm not over at your house.
No, I will not subject you to that movie a second time. Definitely not. My next movie is very unfortunately on my list. I was looking forward to it for a very long time. It is a Disney animated feature film. It sucked, and it was called Wish. If you saw Wish, you know what I'm talking about because anybody that I have talked to that has seen Wish agrees with me that it is one of the worst movies that Disney has put out in a very long time, including the people that I sat with at dinner on my latest Disney cruise. They could not get into it. They walked out of the theater on the cruise ship, and they said they wanted to jump off the balcony because it was so awful. So Ariana DeBose, very sorry to have to tell you this. Your movie sucks.
Oh, and sorry to Chris Pine as well because we're both fans of his.
As much as I like Chris Pine, his character was pointless, and while he can sing, his song was fucking stupid.
And Alan Tudyk. Shit, there's a lot of people in that movie
poor
that
Alan
we
Tudyk.
like. Oh,
he was a very
bummer.
annoying goat in that movie. It just was not a good movie.
Bummer.
If you've seen Encanto and you like Encanto, just watch Encanto again. Don't watch Wish.
Okay. Well, I do love Encanto, so I'll just watch that again.
There you go.
Before I get into my most hated film of the year, I have an honorable mention from one of our very loyal listeners.
Oh.
I watched a couple minutes of this film and turned it off. My sister sat through the entire thing, and so I think with both of us, I can confidently put this on the list.
Really? I'm very curious.
Yes, this is Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon.
Oh, you walked out of Rebel Moon.
I did. It was
Wow.
awful. It stole from all of the classic sci-fi films you can think of.
Oh,
It's a
damn.
garbage film. Shannon, thank you for sitting through the rest of it for me to confirm that, in fact, it is terrible. And so please, everyone, skip Rebel Moon and whatever sequels or director's cuts or whatever bullshit Zack Snyder and Netflix want to release together. Just skip it.
Ugh.
It's way too derivative.
That's too bad. I've heard nothing but terrible things, so I will very likely not watch that one. Sorry, Snyder. My next movie is a movie that I almost walked out of with the first two people that walked out 40 minutes into this movie. This is a DC movie. This is a sequel to another god-awful DC movie. Directed by James Wan, director of Saw, Insidious, a whole bunch of great horror movies. The Conjuring, especially The Conjuring.
Didn't he also direct a Fast and Furious movie?
He absolutely did. He directed my favorite Fast and the Furious movie, Furious 7. James Wan. He's a great director. He can't do superhero movies. And neither can Owa Momoa, and neither can Patrick Wilson, neither can Nicole Kidman, neither can anybody involved in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And I know, V, you're never going to see it, so I did take one for the team on this one.
You did.
And if you have not seen it yet, you're not missing a single thing. So do not see this movie.
Even Patrick Wilson being really cut and having a shirt off?
Yeah, I couldn't care less about that. Now, I've got two more left on my movies you should miss list, and they really are, they're beating each other to a bloody pulp, trying to, to battle for the number one spot of worst movie of the year. This was really tough for me, and I'm just going to leave it the way it was because I was so pissed off that I actually had to watch the number one worst movie of the year, in my opinion, of course. Now, I'm going to go with this one as the second worst movie of the year that I saw. It really did make me angry. I saw this in theaters. The first trailer was great. Then the other four trailers that came after it just made the movie look awful, but I saw it anyway. Directed by David Gordon Green, written by Danny McBride and whoever the hell else wrote it, along with the Halloween Zen crew. This is Exorcist Believer. What a god-awful, horrendous movie, and I just hope to God or whoever's out there in the universe that this is not Ellen Burstyn's last movie. She better make something else that is far better than this, because this movie was a slap in the face to anybody who is a fan of The Exorcist. Fuck this movie and fuck David Gordon Green. Apparently he's been fired from the dumbass sequel that they have already put money into because they got the rights for The Exorcist for $400 million fucking dollars. I don't know how they did that. Fuck this movie. Don't ever see it. It's a piece of shit.
Sounds good. Not planning to.
It's not good. It's not good.
And we're down to our worst movies of the year. I will go first, and I will tell you that this movie, like a lot of worst movies of the year, they just piss you off. There's nothing like knowing a movie is bad because it makes you so damn angry that you sat through it. And I usually like this actor. I really haven't been convinced that this actress is any good. But the plot was toxic. It had a horrible message. There was zero chemistry in this film between the leads. And I am talking about Apple TV's Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Ghosted.
Oh, yeah, I remember when you told me about that one.
It is absolutely, unequivocally the worst movie of the year for me. Do not ever watch this film. And that's all I can really say about it. It's that bad.
All right. I will definitely not watch it. That's for sure. Jumping into the finality of my movies you absolutely should miss is a movie directed by a dumbass director that my wife is a big fan of, but also hated this movie. This guy is somehow an Oscar winner. He sucks, and none of his movies are any different than the first one that came out. Now, granted, I do like, I think, 2 of his movies, but this one is his latest one with a stellar cast, but they all sucked. Even a fully nude Scarlett Johansson couldn't save Asteroid City from the god-awful, atrocious piece of shit this movie was. Do not ever watch Asteroid City. Do me a favor and don't ever watch a Wes Anderson movie, and also do me a favor and don't ever tell me you're a fan of Wes Anderson, because I will ridicule you like I do my wife for being a fan of this one-trick pony dumbass.
We are in agreement. I didn't even watch Asteroid City because I heard from you it's so bad, but I have the same opinion of Wes Anderson that you do, so yeah. I'm not going to argue with you at all.
He sucks.
He is the Ugg boot pumpkin spice latte of filmmakers.
He's something, that's for sure.
He's like, the whitest filmmaker. Anyway.
Very much so. Very much so.
All right, so should we get into our movies you could miss list next?
We absolutely should.
Now, this list for me holds a lot of really good films. The reason why I put movies in the movies you could miss list category is one of two reasons. Either they were good, but I didn't think they were the best films of the year, or they're really good, but I think certain people would enjoy them, not everyone. And because they're not universal, they didn't qualify for the movies you can't miss category, in my opinion. So that's, for our audience, a little bit of insight into how I categorize these next movies.
I categorize them very similarly to you. I really liked majority of these. There's some that I may not have loved like fully with my whole heart. Mm-hmm. And again, I feel like I put them in this list because they're not for everybody. And I think a lot of people would either, teeter on, oh, I really want to see that, or I couldn't care less with.
So my first on this list, I'm going to come out swinging. I'm going to come out quite divisive. I'm sure you are going to disagree with me. I put Killers of the Flower Moon as first on my movies you could miss list. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't Leo's best performance. In fact, I don't even think it cracks his top 10 in best performance. I loved the first third of this film. The first hour is phenomenal. It focuses on the Osage people. I loved it. The last 2 hours of this film are purely about the white men in this story. All of the Native Americans completely take a back seat. As soon as they leave Washington, D.C., we don't really see any of them again except Lily Gladstone's character. And for me, that really fell flat. I really wanted him to continue telling their story from their perspective, showing how strong they were. And because of those things, it was really disappointing and fell flat to me, which is why Killers of the Flower Moon is on my movies you could miss list this year.
Well, all right. I do disagree, but that's the beauty of this podcast.
And what is your first film on the movies you could miss list?
My first film on the movies you could miss list teeters on movies you should miss and movies you could miss. It's a great first hour. The cast is very good. Barry Keoghan, lead in this movie. Rosamund Pike in a role that I actually liked her in. The guy from Gran Turismo, forgive me, I just don't want to butcher your name. It's very difficult. You killed the role in Saltburn. That's the movie right there, Saltburn. Great first hour. There's a reveal that truly infuriated me and just completely took me out of the story after that. Emerald Fennell is a good writer. She's a very good director. I really liked Promising Young Woman. This movie, though, truthfully, a lot of people are angry it didn't get any Oscar nominations, and I'm very happy it didn't because it didn't deserve any of them. But it's a movie that, if you are curious, definitely check out. I've had a lot of long conversations with people about this movie, including my friend Brittany, who is a costume designer who loved the movie. We had a very interesting convo back and forth about it, and she opened my eyes to a couple of things that I might have missed because I just was really taken out of the last hour and 15 minutes of this movie. Okay.
Your opinion is the reason I skipped it.
Oh, well, there you go.
The second movie on my list is a film that's great, that I love, that I recommend to a lot of people who I think would enjoy this genre.
Okay.
It's very stylized. It's shot in a 70s blaxploitation style. It's also sci-fi, so I think very specific people would enjoy it, but those people who like those genres will absolutely love this movie. I am talking about the John Boyega, Jamie Foxx, Teyonah Parris movie, They Cloned Tyrone. This movie is fantastic. I loved it. I think you'd like it too. But it is
gotta watch it.
Very, very different movie, and so I think a lot of go to the theater a couple times a year type of people who just like popcorn flicks wouldn't necessarily like it, which is why it's on the could miss. But otherwise, yeah, anybody who likes either sci-fi or stylized films, it's a lot of fun. You can watch it right now on Netflix, They Cloned Tyrone. I highly recommend it.
I've been meaning to watch it since you mentioned it a few weeks ago. I have it on my to-watch list on Netflix. And those that have listened to us for a long time know that I don't have a long watch list on Netflix.
No, you don't. Maestro is on that watch list now.
No, unfortunately, yes, it is. My next movie, V, might upset you. This is a movie that I think you liked more than myself. I didn't hate it, but it was a movie that I was like, and it was fine. It was a franchise movie. It's a horror franchise movie. It's a slasher franchise movie. This is Scream 6. It was all right. I liked it. Some of the ending of it kind of was a bit irritating, but overall, if you do like the Scream franchise, and similar to how V has been saying, like, I would recommend this movie to a certain group of people, but it wasn't one that I necessarily would return to unless we were doing like a Scream marathon, like you and me, V, or if Amy wanted to do like from Scream to Scream 6. Sure, let's do it. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch this movie again, though.
I agree with absolutely every word you just said.
Fantastic.
I think my next film is also going to be on your could-miss list as well.
Oh, yeah.
This is, well, for a second it was the final film of the series, but they're already talking about making a fifth one.
Oh, okay.
You and I love the first one of this series. We don't think they really should be beating the dead horse at this point and making more of them.
Okay.
This is the beloved Keanu Reeves. We do love him a lot here and throughout America. John Wick Chapter 4.
It is also on my movies you could miss list.
Perfect. I'm glad we're in agreement. Back to you, I think.
Oh, okay. This one I actually unfortunately watched at home, and I was about 8 minutes in and was like, should have seen this in theaters. But it still is on my you could miss list because it really didn't grab me emotionally with the story or with any of the acting. I'm talking about the John David Washington, Gareth Edwards directed The Creator. I've loved the special effects in this movie. The action is awesome, but the movie itself is not as awesome as I was hoping it to be. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Birds of Prey or The Emancipation of Harley Quinn, when it just becomes this keep a kid safe type of a movie. Now, I know that's how it was marketed, but it just, for some reason, I think maybe because of the whole AI thing that's been going on these last few years and will continue to go on until we're probably gone and dead. It just was like,
AI took over.
Yeah, it was just a meh type of a movie. Great special effects. I love John David Washington, but I didn't necessarily love him in this movie. Didn't really care about his character.
Again, I agree with every word you said.
All right, fantastic. What's your next one, V?
I think you and I agree on this one, too.
Oh.
This is the fifth and supposedly final of this franchise. I've spoken about the third one on this podcast. The fourth one, you and I agree, is one of the worst movies ever made.
Yes.
This one wasn't that terrible, at least. But you could miss it because it's just more the same. There was nothing new added to the storyline.
Sure.
And I am talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. They should have ended with 3. That was such a great way to end the series, but they kept milking it. I will always sit down and watch a Harrison Ford movie. So they had me at Harrison, but it's fun. It's entertaining. I watched it with my father at home after I had seen it in theaters. I made sure to watch
it twice.
I have seen it twice because I really wanted to have my dad watch it since we both love the original Indiana Jones series, well, at least 1 and 3.
Sure.
And so I wanted to introduce him to it. We had fun, and watching it the second time didn't upset me or anything or piss me off like, oh god, I gotta watch this again, which is why it's on the could miss list this year. It's a fun action film, but it's nothing special, which is why it's in this category.
All right, I'm with you. It's somewhere else on my lists, but
whoa, no way! All right, it's starting to get interesting here at Movies You Missed.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I like it.
All right, then what's next on the list of could miss movies for you?
This movie I have on my you could miss list, not on your should miss list. I believe you just had it on your should miss list, but you said you could be convinced otherwise. This is the Jake Johnson written and directed Self-Reliance. I have it on this list because it took me by surprise. And I've worked with Jake Johnson. I like the guy as a person and as an actor, and that's not why it's on this list in particular. I just thought the movie was a lot of fun. It was different, and Amy and I both really enjoyed it. She actually wanted to watch it, which is why we watched it in the first place. Had she not mentioned it, I probably would not have watched it at all. Unless, after you mentioned that you had watched it, maybe I would have gone back to watch it. But I liked it. I thought it was fun, and I thought his performance was great. I liked Anna Kendrick in it, and the story was different and something, kept me interested throughout the whole thing. So that's why I put it on this could miss list, but not on the should miss list.
Yeah, and I think ask me again tomorrow and it'll be on my could miss list, right? I could go either way, so no worries there. I don't strongly disagree with that statement at all.
Wonderful. V, what's your next pick on the could miss list.
This one is purely because of the editing. I thought the movie jumped around a little too much. Otherwise, it's a phenomenal film that would have been on my can't miss list. Oh. And I could be convinced otherwise. It like I said, it purely came down to editing. I know they had to cover a true story over many, many, many years, and so that's why they made the decisions they made in terms of editing. But it just was a little too disjointed for me to be a cohesive film. Otherwise, the acting is phenomenal. The story is one that should be told and people should know about because it's so, God damn it, it's just so heartbreaking. And Zac Efron absolutely deserved the Oscar nomination over Bradley Cooper, and I will be angry about that for a while now. And I am talking about The Iron Claw. I know it's in a different portion of the episode for you, and I totally respect that. And I know a lot of people loved this movie. I really, really liked it. And for me, it was like Tick, Tick, Boom a couple years ago with Andrew Garfield. It's a good movie. His performance was phenomenal. Similar to The Iron Claw. It's a good movie, but Zac Efron knocked it out of the goddamn park. And I'm so upset that A24 did not campaign for him more because he absolutely deserves accolades for this film.
Fully agree with you on that one. On the accolades, anyway. Not in the position of lists.
Exactly.
But we'll get to that when we get to our other list. My next pick is a Gerard Butler movie that I watched at home but should have seen in theaters. This is Plane. I thought it was awesome. It was so much fun. It was brutal. It was bloody. It was violent. If you haven't seen it and you're a fan of Gerard Butler, give it a shot. It's like an hour and a half. You can turn your brain off and just have a good time.
Nice.
Yes.
Now, this film is only on this list because I think it's for certain people. It is a great movie. I've seen it more than once because, funny enough, I introduced my dad to this film.
Okay.
And I marketed it to him by saying, do you want to see a bunch of Nazis get killed? And he said, hell yeah. But it is extremely brutal, which is why it's on the could miss list, because there is a ton of people who do not want to watch this film, and I respect that.
Sure.
Otherwise, this is a bloody brilliant film. If you enjoyed Inglourious Basterds, you will love this movie because it's very much Tarantino-esque. I am talking about Sisu.
Yes.
It's a gorgeous film. I love where it's shot. The actors are great, and it's a lot of fun to watch all these Nazis getting what they deserve. But again, it's extremely bloody, which is why it's in this category.
You know, I have been meaning to watch this one since you saw it in theaters, and I did not get a chance to see it in theaters, but I did watch it over the last few days as well. It's on my could miss and should not miss list. It's on both of my lists, only because, like you said, it's very violent, it's very bloody. I loved that there was very minimal dialogue. It kind of brought me back to Silent Night. V, I know you didn't like that movie very much, but there was a lot of animalistic action going on. The first kill, I remember texting you. I was like, that was gold, and pun intended. I was sitting in my theater room, and I was just like, oh, shit! Like, right when that first kill happens, it just doesn't let up from there. And I love the way that the women were used in Sisu as well. I thought that was fucking awesome. So check out Sisu. It's on Stars if you love watching Nazis get the shit kicked out of them and their throats cut. The next movie that I have on my could miss list is, because I feel like it's an acquired taste, as is this director, ever since his first phenomenal piece of cinema, The Sixth Sense. This is the M. Night Shyamalan, written and directed, adapted from the novel Knock at the Cabin, starring Batista and Jonathan Groff and Rupert Grint. Now, if you know him by name, awesome. If you don't, he's the redhead Ron Weasley in the Harry Potter movies. This was, I think, the first time I'd seen him in an R-rated movie, so I thought he really killed it. I enjoyed the movie very much. I saw it with a pretty packed theater, and everybody seemed to also like it. It's not a horror movie, but it's kind of scary because of the situations that are going on in this movie. If you like Shyamalan, like if you like M. Night Shyamalan, Unbreakable, and The Village, and maybe even The Visit, which is the crazy one with the grandparents, check out Knock at the Cabin. I had a really good time with it.
Okay, nice. I don't think it's for me, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody.
My next film is actually a movie we saw together, and I think it's probably going to be in a similar position on your list as well.
Okay.
It's a DC film.
Okay.
We were very surprised at how much we enjoyed this movie because we had heard so much crap about it.
Yeah.
And that it was awful. And then we go and watch it, and we look at each other, and we go, that was actually really fun.
Yes.
We enjoyed the hell out of this film. I can see why a lot of people hated it. It's not a perfect movie at all in any way,
Not
shape,
at
or
all.
form. But we both really were entertained. We loved Michael Keaton in the cowl, and I am talking about The Flash.
It is elsewhere on my lists.
Are you kidding me? It's not
I'm
that
not.
good.
I went opening night and I had a great time. Especially seeing it with you the second time was also great.
Well, I'm glad you had such a good time. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed myself. I will always love seeing Michael Keaton as Batman in any way, shape, or form. And
Hell yeah.
so I really had a good time with this film, and it's on my movies you could miss list.
Sweet.
Yeah.
The next movie on my You Could Miss list is an Amazon Prime movie starring Julie Bowman and several other people in this movie. Julie Bowman, if you don't know her by name, she was in Happy Gilmore. She's also one of the mothers in Modern Family. This is a horror movie, more of a horror comedy called Totally Killer. My wife actually was the one that suggested we check this one out, and it was a lot of fun. If you like horror comedy, I would recommend it very much. It's not super bloody, it's not super ridiculous, but it does deal with time travel and, saving people before certain things happen, and I really enjoyed it, and I think a handful of other people would also enjoy it.
I haven't even heard of that film until you mentioned it.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Now, this film, I am very sad to put on this list, and I was disappointed in it because I was so pumped leading up to the release of this film. I saw it opening weekend, and man, was I disappointed. I did not give a single shit about the villain, and I thought it was a little long. I am talking about my beloved Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning.
Oh, that does suck.
Yes.
To hear that it's on this list.
Yes, it's on my movies you could miss list. It was really disappointing. There's a story and character choice that they made in this movie that pissed me off, that I'm still angry about 8 months later, and I really hope they redeem themselves with part 2, even though I guess Dead Reckoning is now just called Dead Reckoning, and it's not part 1, and so apparently the next movie is going to be retitled to something else and not part 2, but whatever.
Really? I did not know that at all.
Yeah, I will absolutely be watching it, even though this movie disappointed me. I'm still going to, of course, continue to watch Mission Impossible movies, and hopefully Mick Hugh and Tom Cruise redeem themselves a little bit. Until that time, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is on the movies you could miss list for me.
Wow. It's elsewhere for me.
Yeah. Wow, you loved a lot of movies this year.
I did. My next movie, though, is a movie that a lot of people are saying is like one of the best movies of the year, and I will just wholeheartedly disagree. I liked the movie, but it wasn't a movie that I was like, oh, that's going to be an Oscar contender. And I'm sure Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are upset about that because I'm talking about the movie Air. It was fine, but so many people are just like, oh, that was one of the best movies. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. We know what happens, and that's why it didn't hit me the way that they hoped it would. I don't know, but you could miss it. I mean, we all know that Air Jordans exist.
Yeah.
Like, do we need a movie on how it all happened?
Exactly. That is precisely why I was never interested in watching this film, because I already knew all about it. I grew up during that time, and it never sparked my interest to a point where I was like, ooh, I want to know more about this story. So I never watched
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
And nothing against Michael Jordan. He is one of the greatest athletes on the planet, if not the greatest athletes on the planet.
Yeah.
It's still just like, okay, yeah, you have your shoes. Cool.
Exactly. Now, this movie is the third and supposedly final film of the series. I loved every single one of these films. I actually love number 3 more than number 2, maybe even more than number 1. This might be my favorite of the entire franchise.
There isn't a Wayne's World 3, so I'm very curious what this is.
No, but this is one of your all-time favorite actors, if not your all-time favorite actor. The location is gorgeous. It's a very satisfying film. I love any revenge-style movie.
Hell yes.
I am talking about The Equalizer 3.
Nice.
The reason why it's on the movies you could miss list is you should probably watch the first 2 before you watch the third one, so there's that tied to it. And also, it's very, very bloody, so I know a lot of people who wouldn't like it because it's a bloody action film, but otherwise, goddamn, this movie's great.
Yes. It is in a separate category for me, for sure, but I agree with you. It's a great one. My next movie is an animated movie that my wife and I saw in theaters. We saw it in 3D. Animation, stunning, beautiful, pops. The colors are great. Jack Black was perfect as the villain. Chris Pratt was not perfect as the lead. Neither was Charlie Day as his brother. I don't know why they couldn't just get Italian actors to do Mario and Luigi. I did like Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach. This is Super Mario Brothers. The movie is beautifully animated. The 3D was fantastic. The movie sucked. But if you want to watch a fun animated movie, watch it. It's fine.
All right. I do not want to watch that film because Chris Pratt as Mario seems blasphemous to me.
Yeah. Chris Pratt sucks as a voice actor.
He really does. And my horror comedy that I watched this year that I absolutely loved because you recommended it to me, and goddamn, am I really starting to fall in love with horror comedy as a genre in general, and I'm going to be watching more and more of those films moving forward. This one is Ray Liotta's last film. I had so much fun with it, and it is a bloody mess. It's ridiculous, which is why it's not on my can't miss list, because I just couldn't put it next to the other best movies of the year with a straight face. I just couldn't do it. But I am talking about Cocaine Bear.
Yeah.
God, this movie's fun. Definitely watch it if you enjoy bloody movies or ridiculous campy movies. It's right up your alley. I love this film, and I'm happy to talk about it on the show.
Awesome. Also, another movie on a different list.
Of
mine.
God, this is so crazy.
The next movie on my list is another Ben Affleck movie. He is the lead in this movie along with William Fichtner. This movie is directed by Robert Rodriguez. This movie lasted about a week in the theaters, I think all across the United States. This movie is called Hypnotic. It is definitely a movie you can miss. This is basically like the D version of Inception. A lot of cool ideas, a lot of really cool ideas. Some of the execution just did not land. I didn't hate the movie, but I'm not running out to buy it. Definitely a movie you could miss.
Okay. The animated movie for me that made this list is a great film. It's super highly rated. It's not a perfect movie to me. The last 30 minutes or so of the film with the big bad guy for me fell a little bit flat, which is why it got relegated down to the could miss list. Otherwise, it's a phenomenal film. I'm so proud and happy for Seth Rogen because it did so well and he really spearheaded this film. Has a whole host of phenomenal voice actors, unlike Super Mario Brothers. And I am talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
I never did see it. I know you said that I would like it. I think it's on streaming now, and I plan to watch it. I like the animation. Strangely enough, though, that animation is very similar to the animation in Wish. And it seems like, and actually the Spider-Verse movies. There's a lot of animation coming out like that. I plan on checking it out at some point in the future.
Good.
My next movie, this movie stars Russell Crowe, and this is called The Pope's Exorcist. You could miss this movie. It's not anything that anybody hasn't seen before. You know, if you've seen The Exorcist or Exorcism of Emily Rose or even a movie about exorcism, all the tropes are there. However, there are moments that are really fucked up and really fucking disturbing, which is saying more than Exorcist Believer, because the acting in Pope's Exorcist was so much more convincing than the acting in Exorcist Believer.
The next couple movies on my movies you could miss lists are Disney movies. I'll start with this one.
No.
Yes, unfortunately. It's a live-action remake. It is not the worst live-action remake I've ever seen because that title is still held by The Lion King and will probably always be held by that atrocious film that's soulless.
Hell yeah.
I am talking instead about The Little Mermaid. It's not terrible. It's just not something I really cared about.
I get you.
And so that's why it's on the could miss list. Halle Bailey is incredible as a singer. She was perfectly cast in this film, and so props to her for sure.
Agreed.
The Scuttlebutt song demoted this movie
Piece of shit.
so much.
Absolutely awful.
It almost ruined the whole movie because it was that bad.
It was pretty god awful. Absolutely.
And so The Little Mermaid for me is on the movies you could miss list this year, but if you have preteen daughters or children in general, they could watch this film without a problem and they'd probably enjoy it. Although, if you're a good parent, you'll show them the original animated version from 1989 first.
Yes. Jodie Benson, everybody. Jodie Benson. I have The Little Mermaid on my could miss list as well. I agree with just about everything you said. I loved the Scuttlebutt song. I'm kidding. It was piece of shit. However, the whole part of your world made me cry in theaters. I saw this in theaters opening weekend. I saw it in 3D. I thought the animation was great. A lot of people talk shit about the animation. I thought Flounder and Scuttle looked really good. Maybe Sebastian didn't look that great. I liked Daveed Diggs as Sebastian. I thought his Under the Sea song was pretty good. Overall, though, it did not need to be 2 hours and 20 minutes long. That's for sure. Overall, it's one of the better live-action remakes. But yeah, I'm with you on The Little Mermaid being in the could miss list. But yes, if you're a good parent, show them 1989 Jodie Benson. That's the perfect one right there.
Agreed.
My next movie is a movie you actually have on your should miss list. I enjoyed it, maybe because we watched the first one before we went to the theater to see the second one. I'm talking about Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I had a good time with it. I didn't hate it. Now, granted, I haven't seen it since theaters. It's not a great movie, but it's still entertaining. I liked the Fast and the Furious nod with Helen Mirren and Zachary Levi at the one point in the movie. I know it's in the trailer, but I have it on my could miss list because if you like the first one, I would recommend seeing the second one.
Okay. My other Disney movie that I wanted to talk about on the could miss list, you recommended this movie to me, and so I watched it because I wouldn't have watched it otherwise, honestly, unless you had said something. I'm so glad I did. I really, really enjoyed this film. It's not an Oscar winner. It's not spectacular, which is why it's on this section. But otherwise, It's a great film. It's really sweet. The storyline is beautiful. It has a lot of wonderful heart and emotion in it. The actors are great. I love seeing Rosario Dawson in anything, and I had a lot of fun with it. I highly recommend it to a lot of people, especially people with teenage kids. I'm talking about Disney's Haunted Mansion, and I give you all the credit for this film because you're the one who made me watch it.
Oh, wonderful. I very much enjoyed the Haunted Mansion. Hated the Eddie Murphy version, but this one was definitely a step up. Lakeith Stanfield was so good in this movie.
Yes.
As was Danny fucking DeVito. The guy had me in stitches. And I really liked Owen Wilson, which we talked about recently in our Tropic Thunder episode, how he actually really did a great job in the Haunted Mansion. Even Rosario Dawson's son, the kid that played her son, was awesome.
Yeah.
Cool special effects, good storyline, an all-around good movie, and I also have it on my could-miss list only because it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah, and the other reason I put it on this section is because when I looked at it compared to the other movies on my can't-miss list, I'm pretty picky about can't-miss.
Sure.
I guess I don't have to be, but it takes a lot for me to say a movie is universally great for everyone, and so
sure,
or just a movie that is so monumental that you have to watch it, even if you don't normally like that genre. And it sounds like you and I could have totally been convinced either way to put it on can't miss because it's that good. We just didn't this year, but it's certainly a movie worth watching. It's on Disney Plus. Definitely give it a chance if you have any interest whatsoever in that type of movie.
I completely agree. This movie I actually went and saw with my father. My dad wanted to see this one. We were talking about The Pope's Exorcist, and he was like, "Oh, have you heard of this movie?" And I was like, "Actually, I have." I really like Sean Patrick Flanery and Jordan Belfi. I've had the pleasure of working with Sean Patrick Flanery. He is a really fucking cool dude. He recorded a video for my sister because she is a massive fan of his from the Boondock Saints. I'm talking about the movie Nefarious. This movie deals with possession again. It is a two-man show, really, between Sean Patrick Flanery and Jordan Belfi. Sean Patrick Flanery plays a death row inmate that is either possessed or not. You know, there's that whole psychosis discussion that's going on, and Jordan Belfi comes in to either corroborate if he's possessed or not. Really good movie. I thought the pacing of it was great. If you like The Conjuring, if you like The Pope's Exorcist, if you like any sort of horror movie dealing with the church, this is a movie for you to watch. It's only in my could-miss list because it's definitely not going to be for everybody. It's R-rated only because of language. It's really not violent or anything like that, but I liked it. My father liked it. I had a few conversations actually with Jordan Belfi through social media after seeing the movie, so that was really cool. And, if, again, you like those kind of movies, check it out.
Nice, and I was so pumped that you were able to talk to Jordan a little bit on social media about it.
Definitely.
I'm going to take a little bit of a left turn and talk about a completely different genre. This is a foreign film. The only reason it's on this part of the list is because it's a foreign film. I don't think it's for everyone because there are subtitles. It's purely in French. This is actually two movies. Both of them are fantastic. I absolutely loved
sweet.
both of them so much. I love that they were filmed concurrently as well. It made it much more cohesive, but I understand why it was broken into two different parts. It absolutely should have been, because this is a very expansive story. This is The Three Musketeers Part 1 and 2.
Nice.
All in French, all amazing, all great action, fantastic classic story. Highly recommend it to anyone who's willing to read subtitles.
All right. I remember you mentioning the first one.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure when the second one was going to come out, so I'm glad that you were able to see both versions. I have got to watch those because I love that story.
I was able to watch this part 2. It's called Milady within the last month. I'm really glad I was able to complete the story, and yes, I highly recommend it. You, I think, would love it. There's several other people in my life, including one of my sisters, who I think would love it as well. Like I said,
Awesome.
Anyone who's willing to read subtitles, give these movies a watch.
I shall indeed. Looking forward to it. The next movie on my list is a movie that you had on your should-miss list. This is a Marvel movie. It's Volume 3 of the trilogy, although it's probably number 19 in the timeline, if you will. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Volume 3 was a lot of fun. There were definitely some issues with it. I agree that it kind of was a little bit messy. I like how it opened. I liked the progression and how we learn about Rocket's past. This was the first Marvel movie that actually made me cry, and Amy and I really enjoyed it. It's a could miss, though, because it's not for everybody. But overall, I really liked it, and I've been meaning to watch it again, so I might actually just have to get the trilogy on 4K, because I've watched 1 and 2 so many times at home. It kind of belongs in my collection at this point.
All right. Enjoy that for yourself.
I shall. You're a fan of the other two, though, or at least the first one, right?
First one, yes.
Okay, so you don't like the other two, then?
No, I don't. The second
Fine.
one was forced comedy. It was really annoying. Kurt Russell couldn't even save it.
Interesting. See, I disagree.
Yeah.
We're completely different people, you and me. And in the interest of time, I am just going to finish off my list here, which is V. I don't know if you've seen a lot of these, so we'll just get into them. One I'm going to start with is Insidious: The Red Door, the fifth, although in my personal opinion, the third chapter of the Insidious franchise. This one goes back to the Lambert family. This was the Patrick Wilson directed horror movie in the trilogy, although the 5G. This is a movie you could miss if you don't like horror. I actually just rewatched this the other day with my buddy Joel, and I got to tell you, I liked it a lot more the second time. I think Patrick Wilson really did a great job directing this movie. Check it out if you want to, if you've seen any of the Insidious movies and liked them. Moving right along with the finality of my list, A Haunting in Venice, directed by Kenneth Branagh, starring Kenneth Branagh. On a different list for you.
That's on a different list for me.
I think I put it in here because I just did not like the first two as much. I really like Death on the Nile more than Murder on the Orient Express, but Haunting in Venice was a lot of fun. Michelle Yeoh was great. Tina Fey was fucking awesome. Kenneth Branagh was great, of course. I only put it in this list because of the fact that Murder on the Orient Express, it's not a great trilogy for me, but this one was really good. And if you like any of the other two movies, definitely check this one out. Moving right along, jumping back into the horror realm, The Nun 2 is on my list of could miss, only because it's, in my personal opinion, a truly unnecessary sequel. Still a lot of fun, though. If you like the first Nun or any of the Conjuring movies, check out The Nun 2. I have this movie in my could miss list. V, you have it in your should miss list. This is the Ang Lee directed Silent Night. I really enjoyed it. I only have it in my could miss list because it's clearly not for everybody, including V, but it's very animalistic. There's no dialogue, which I thought was great, so definitely check it out if you want to. Chevalier is in my could-miss list, only because of the fact that I wanted more from this movie. I wanted another half hour. I truly wanted this one to be the length of a biopic, and a lot of biopics, I feel like they cut them too short. This one was cut too short for me, but it was still an enjoyable movie. I mentioned it a few episodes ago in the movies that we had just recently watched. This one also is in my could-miss list because I don't know what it's like being a mother. I don't know if a lot of mothers would like to watch this movie, but I liked the movie. I thought Noemi Merlant was great. I thought Kit Harington was great. This is Baby Ruby. It's currently streaming on Hulu. Another one I have on my could-miss list because not a lot of people like true crime. I read the book, as did you. I thought the movie was a great adaptation of the book. This is the Scorsese, DiCaprio, Lily Gladstone-led Killers of the Flower Moon. I thought it was a great movie. I agree with you on a lot of points, though, that you have, that it felt a little disjointed.
Cool.
But it is a movie that Yeah, absolutely. I do want to watch it again because the Oscars are coming, and Lily Gladstone got nominated. It got nominated for Best Picture. Again, I liked the movie. I liked the book as well. It's just an infuriating story, and I do agree with V on the fact that it really delved into the white man situation a little bit more than the Osage after the first hour. My next one is a could miss. This was tough as a could miss or should not miss. No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence is a could miss for me. It's an entertaining movie. I laughed. I thought Jennifer Lawrence was great. The movie itself, entertaining, but nothing that's like, oh, you gotta see this. You know, it's like, it's still enjoyable. I'm glad that I saw it at home. It wasn't like I gotta make it to the theater for this, even though Jennifer Lawrence is naked in the movie. It's
she
still
does
like
a full suplex naked in the
full
movie.
nudity, which is crazy. Like, I turned to my wife, I was like, whoa. And I had to Google it to make sure that it wasn't a body double, you know what I'm saying? So
And
I even reached out to a buddy of mine. I was like, have you seen No Hard Feelings? He's a big J-Law fan. He's like, of course. I'm like, okay, cool.
And I agree with you. I loved this film. I thought it was hilarious. I was extremely surprised by this film, actually. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. But it's a raunchy comedy, so of course it has to be on a could-miss list.
I don't think it has to be on a could-miss list because of the raunchiness.
You going to recommend this to your parents?
Oh, definitely not.
Oh,
no,
there you go.
I'd recommend it to my sister and a lot of my friends and a lot of other adults that I know that like raunchy comedies. And I got to tell you, I loved Matthew Broderick in No Hard Feelings. He was awesome.
He was great.
My final two coming in are two movies that really surprised me. One I really, really, really wanted to see in theaters. This is Lizzie Kaplan and Anthony Starr and Woody Norman. Woody Norman is a child actor, and I saw him first in The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and I loved him in that. Also starring Cleopatra Coleman. She was also in a movie that's on my can't miss list, which we'll get into when we get into that list. This movie is called Cobweb. Definitely some spine-tingling moments in this movie. The end was a bit meh, but everything leading up to like the final 7 minutes was fucking awesome. So check this movie out if you want to. If you like slow burn type of horror movies, I think it's like an hour and 40 minutes. It's not super long, but very enjoyable. And my last could-missed movie, Will Ferrell, Jamie Foxx, Isla Fisher, Randall Park, and a fantastic mini cameo of Josh Gad, Strays, about the stray dogs. V, you're shaking your head. Have you seen Strays yet?
I'm just remembering that Josh Gad cameo because it's the only clip of the movie I've seen where they're at the fair. God damn it, that was so funny.
And that's not the funniest part of the movie,
Seriously?
but that it's in my opinion it's
Wow,
not.
okay,
But that moment in the movie when I saw it in theaters, I actually saw this movie after I saw The Nun 2. So I did a double feature that evening. I was crying during the Josh Gad moment with the narrator dog. So if you like talking dog movies that are R-rated and very out there, check out Strays. That movie was a surprise movie for me, absolutely.
Nice.
So V, let's get into the finality of your could-miss list.
All right, let's finish this out. For the rest of my movies you could miss list, I'm going to start with a documentary. It's great. It's intense, but it's a documentary, which is already cutting off a whole bunch of people who don't watch documentaries.
Right.
And also, it's a very intense subject. I know a lot of people wouldn't enjoy it because of the subject matter. Otherwise, it's a phenomenal film. I highly recommend it. It's called The Deepest Breath.
Oh.
It's great. It's on Netflix. It's about free diving. Watch it if you can handle it.
Yeah, you told me about that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do it.
And then moving on to comedy, Quiz Lady with Sandra Oh and Awkwafina.
Oh, yeah.
It's hilarious. It's adorable. It's not a perfect movie, which is why it's on the could miss list, but it's a lot of fun. It's on Hulu. Highly recommend it for anyone who loves female-led comedies or just comedies in general. It's really sweet. I actually think it's a performance of Will Ferrell's that you wouldn't hate. He plays an Alex Trebek-style game host, and he's
nice.
good. He's very subdued. He's really sweet. There's a wonderful scene with him and Awkwafina towards the end of the movie that got me teared up. And I just think this movie's so much fun. I highly recommend it. It's called Quiz Lady. Definitely give it a watch. I've been meaning
to watch it.
Yeah, definitely give it a watch. Then on Hulu, switching gears, based on the true story, true crime, intense thriller.
Oh.
The Boston Strangler, led by both Keira Knightley and Carrie Coon, who a lot of people love. I do too. She was awesome in this film. It's dark and intense, which is why it's not on my can't miss list, but otherwise it's a phenomenal film. Anyone who loves based on a true story, true crime films, give it a watch. Like I said, it's on Hulu, The Boston Strangler.
Hell yeah. That's on a different list of mine.
Oh, shit. Nice. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And then an action film that you could watch if you enjoy action movies or Pierce Brosnan, Fast Charlie. It was a lot of fun. It's a little ridiculous, but I had a great time watching it. I was very happy to see Morena Baccarin back on the screen. And so, yeah, give Fast Charlie a watch if you like fun action movies that are a little bit ridiculous, but great.
Yeah.
Then an animated movie. It's from Miyazaki. The Boy and the Heron. These movies just, I love giving this studio a chance. I love watching Japanese animated movies, but it's just so different for me personally in terms of storytelling than I'm used to as an American. And so
Sure.
I couldn't really get into this film. It is pretty, but otherwise, I really didn't enjoy my time in the theater watching it. Just wasn't for me, but I know a lot of people loved it, and I do think it is a good animated film. So if you in general like Miyazaki films, give it a watch.
I plan to still, yes.
Then one of your films that's probably on a different portion of this podcast, Polite Society.
Aww.
It's fun, but it is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
and kind of out there. And so I put Polite Society on my could miss list, but it is a lot of fun. And so I think for people who like very out there films that are not based in reality, you could totally give it a watch and enjoy it.
Okay.
I did love both leads in it. They're great actresses, but yeah, it's out there. And then a movie that, well, a lot of people said got snubbed for Oscars. It's good. It's intense. It's not a story or style of movie that I usually enjoy because it's a very intense character study. Mm-hmm. May December.
Oh, yeah.
Very good performances, but it's not a movie I'll ever watch again just because it's one of those independent art house movies that are character studies that I just don't usually turn on outside of watching it for the podcast. I watched it because it had a lot of Oscar buzz or awards buzz in general last month. It's intense, but if you like that style of movie, definitely give it a watch. And then lastly, purely because not everyone would like the film, I put The Last Voyage of the Demeter on the could miss list. Only because it's a horror movie. Not everybody's going to watch it.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, that movie is bad ass.
Awesome.
And
that's a pretty good list.
Thank you. Right back at you.
All right.
All right, now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of the episode.
I love meat and potatoes.
You want to kick us off with the movies that you absolutely can't miss of 2023?
All right, here we go into the movies that me, John Clamsh Tastes, thinks you cannot miss. This is going to be a fun list. And we're going to save our top 3 favorite movies like we did last year to discuss at the end of this. Here we go. So my first one is a movie that I really did not plan on seeing because I'm not big on the Marvel world. But this movie surprised me so much at how much fun I had with it that I had to put it on my can't miss list. This is The Marvels, everybody, starring Brie Larson and Teyonah Parris. I loved it. I had a great fucking time with it. It could have been the 4DX theater that I saw it in, but I truly had a really great time with this movie, and will likely add it to my collection in the 4K world at some point soon.
Fuck yes, I'm so happy that you put this on the movies you can't miss list. I loved this film. It's one of my favorite comic book movies since Endgame. It got so much hate unnecessarily. It's a phenomenal movie. Everybody should watch it. It's great. And oh my God, that whole cat scene still makes me smile from ear to ear.
Oh yeah, so good. A lot of good times with the Marvels, absolutely. This next one is one that is absolutely not for everybody. And I know this because a lot of horror friend fans of mine said that they didn't like it, but I had a great time with it. This is Alexander Skarsgård, Cleopatra Coleman, and Mia Goth in Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool. This movie is beyond fucked up, but I loved it. I got to see it again. It was one of those can't look away, not train wreck style, but you just can't look away. It's so fucked up type of a movie. I had a great fucking time with it. I thought everybody delivered. And I've not been the biggest Mia Goth fan, but I'm going to tell you right now, she was horrifying in this movie. And if you like bloody, fucked up horror, check out Infinity Pool, absolutely.
No thanks.
Yeah, probably not for you, V. My next can't miss is a movie that is Hulu produced that I just watched about a week and a half ago, starring Caitlin Dever, our friend here from Booksmart. This is No One Will Save You. awesome movie. Another very minimal dialogue movie, almost to the point where I think there's actually 3 spoken words in the entire hour and a half. Very good alien invasion movie. Check it out if you can or want to. It's on Hulu. Highly recommend. V, I think you'd enjoy it as well since you like the alien invasion world.
I definitely want to, for sure.
Awesome. This movie I really enjoyed. My wife and I watched it because we're big true crime fans, and I was actually surprised my wife wanted to watch it because of one of the leads in it. She's not a big Keira Knightley fan. V, you just mentioned this movie on your could miss list. This is The Boston Strangler. I thought it was awesome. A super good movie. Keira Knightley was great, as was Carrie Coon. Really good true crime portrayal of the Boston Strangler. This was a period-accurate movie, similar to Zodiac, actually, and that might be another reason why I was very much enjoying this movie.
Ooh, good analogy. Oh, man, anyone who loves Zodiac, give Boston Strangler a shot for sure.
Absolutely. This movie, V, kind of breaks my heart that you put this one on your could-miss list, but I have it on my cannot-miss list because I saw one trailer for it and really was excited about it. I did get to see it in theaters. I now own the Blu-ray. This is Polite Society. This movie, like you said, V, is out of control. It's super different. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. Both the leads were fantastic. The story was crazy. The what the fuck moment is still one of those moments where I'm like, this actually happened in this movie. I loved it. Check it out if you can. My next pick for Cannot Miss, Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, and a mini cameo by Bradley Cooper. And I mean mini in the literal sense. Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Amongst Thieves.
Hell yeah!
Fucking awesome. Awesome movie. I've watched it, I think, twice now at home because it's so fucking good. So much fun. Check it out if you can. I'm not even a Dungeons and Dragons player, but the movie was great.
It was great. I also have seen it twice at home since watching it in theaters with you last year.
With us, that's right. We all saw it.
We all saw it together. It is also on my you can't miss movie list because it's so
fantastic.
Fucking good. Everybody watch this film. It's great.
Yes. Yeah, if you haven't yet, I think it's on Paramount Plus right now. You got to check it out. It's so awesome. Good. My next movie is another movie that V had on their could-miss list. This is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I have it on the cannot miss list because it's so much better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Redemption.
It was a lot of fun. Yes, it was a redemption to the whole franchise, and congratulations to John Williams for being the oldest Oscar nominee for being nominated for the soundtrack of Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny. I don't think he'll win, but it's awesome that he got nominated anyway.
He shouldn't win based on the other nominees, but it's cool he got nominated.
Yes. Oh, it's great that he got nominated. My next pick is another movie on V's could miss list, directed by Elizabeth Banks, starring Kerry Russell, Ray Liotta in his final film, and several other people. Cocaine Bear. I fucking loved it. I went in almost blind. I really just did a quick Google of what this movie was about, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was such a blast. So check that one out if you can. I believe it's streaming now. I own the Blu-ray, of course, because it was I think it was like $5 or $10 at Target. And I love Elizabeth Banks. I think she's great, and it's awesome that she's directing movies like this. I hope she gives us another crazy off-the-wall, bloody action movie next.
I'm so stoked it did well enough that it's looked at as a success. It was one of Peacock's most streamed movies in history when it was put on their streaming platform. So
yes,
I'm so glad it is looked at as a success because Elizabeth Banks, big fan of hers. The fact that she's now behind the camera makes me so happy.
Hell yeah. My next one is another movie that V had on their could-miss list. This is the third of the trilogy starring Denzel Washington and Dakota Fanning, Equalizer 3. I loved it. I saw it with my father-in-law, which was very interesting because my father-in-law does not normally like movies like this. He kept turning to me going, this is gruesome. I'm like, fuck yeah, it is. Equalizer 3, killer movie, and no pun intended by saying it's a killer movie.
All puns intended.
All puns intended indeed. My next pick for Cannot Miss is Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult in Renfield. Yes! I loved Renfield so much. I actually did a double feature. I saw Renfield and The Pope's Exorcist on the same day, and Renfield was the better of the two. Check that one out if you like Dracula-type movies, because that movie is awesome.
A movie I've seen twice at home since seeing it in theaters. It is also on my can't miss list. It is so fun. A movie of Awkwafina's that we put on the top of our list
that's
this
right.
year.
Yes, Awkwafina is in that one. She was great. I thought I really enjoyed her in that movie.
I love Nicholas Hoult so much.
He's awesome. awesome.
He's great.
I walked by him at the Funny or Die Studios once, and I was shocked at how tall he was.
He's very tall. Yeah. When I saw pictures of him and Jennifer Lawrence together on the red carpet when they used to date, I was like, holy shit, that guy's tall.
Yeah, he's a big one. My next one is another movie that V has on their could miss list, which breaks my heart as well, but that's okay. That's the whole point of this podcast. Tom Cruise, Rebecca Ferguson, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, and a whole handful of other people.
And your friend Isai Morales.
That's right, Isai Morales as the villain. I was very lucky to work with him on several episodes of NCIS Los Angeles, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I loved it in theaters and IMAX. I have the 4K. I got it for Christmas as a gift, and I watched it recently, and I got to tell you, V, you got to watch it again.
Okay, fine.
Absolutely, watch it again. It is fucking awesome. It is awesome. My next movie, moving right along, is a movie that a friend of my family's was the director of photography on, which I did not know until going to the theater to see this movie. This takes all the horror comedy tropes and horror tropes on its head. Blackening, awesome movie.
Yes.
Just rewatched it with a buddy of mine, and we both laughed our entire asses off, so I've now seen this movie twice, and I very likely will add this to my collection because it is a lot of fun and super hysterical. Everybody in that movie killed it.
I knew it was going to be on my can't miss list when I was recommending it to people who don't watch horror movies.
Oh, fantastic.
Even though a lot of the jokes are based on horror movie tropes, it doesn't matter. This movie is phenomenal. Everyone should watch it.
I completely agree. This movie I saw actually twice in theaters. I saw it twice within a week. I love this writer-director. I introduced V to this writer-director in our first section of horror movies in 2022 with Hereditary. This is Ari Aster's, written and directed, and Joaquin Phoenix starring Beau is Afraid. This movie is absolutely off the chain, out of control. I loved every minute of it. I was watching some of it on my vacation recently, and my wife turned to me and said, "You can change the channel anytime now." Check Beau is Afraid out if you can. Joaquin Phoenix was nominated for a Golden Globe. He did not get an Oscar nomination, which, truthfully, I thought he might get an Oscar nomination for this movie because he was so fantastic in it. But the movie's fucked up. It's out of control. Nathan Lane is in it, and he's great. It's just a really twisted movie about mother and son, and I loved it. And I highly recommend it if you like twisted movies. If you like Hereditary and Midsommar, check it out. This movie's not a horror movie in the traditional sense, but it's pretty fucking fucked up. So check it out if you want to.
No, I won't be.
Yep, not for you. I don't think it's for you at all. Moving right along, this movie I saw once in theaters. I wanted to see more times in theaters, but I only did see it the one time. I now own the 4K. This is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Absolutely fantastic sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Wonderful animation, great story, a lot of comedy, a lot of heart. Definitely check this one out if you have not yet. I don't know if it's streaming or not, but it is an absolute must-see.
I wholeheartedly agree. It is also on my movies you can't miss list of the year. The addition of Oscar Isaac was great. He did such a wonderful job in the movie. It is actually streaming on Netflix now, so give it a watch.
Oh, sweet.
And this is exactly the type of film that proves that animated movies could be nominated for Best Picture of the Year at the Oscars.
Absolutely. This is a DC movie that, V, you have on your list of could miss. This is on my cannot miss list because it took me by surprise so much. I saw it twice, once with you, saw it opening weekend, really enjoyed it. This is Ezra Miller in The Flash. I really fucking loved it. I've watched it twice on 4K since I got it at Target, so I've now seen the movie 4 times. I don't know. It really grabbed me. I really had a great time with it overall, and I know it's very similar to a lot of the Marvel movies with the multiverse, etc., but I really liked it. I thought the girl that played Supergirl,
she was just
good, so awesome.
Yeah,
and a lot of people are like, oh, there's no villain. I'm like, there's definitely a villain or two. I would say like Time is the villain, and then of course Zod shows up at one point or another. But yeah, very enjoyable. I had a great time. I don't think it's a movie that anybody should miss, but I can understand why people are dumping on it because some of the special effects are not great.
Right.
This one completely took me by surprise. I liked the trailer. I really like Orlando Bloom. I was not a big David Harbour fan until this movie. Gran Turismo, directed by Neil Blomkamp, who did District 9 and Elysium and Chappie. This movie is fucking awesome. I have the 4K, and I have been told by my sister that I cannot watch it until I watch it with her because she also watched it and fell in love with it. Gran Turismo, one of the best movies of 2023, absolutely.
Wholeheartedly agree. It's also on my can't miss list.
Fantastic.
Oh, what a fun film. You don't even have to like racing to enjoy this movie.
I completely agree, and I really don't like racing at all.
There you go.
But, watching this movie, and even going back to Ford versus Ferrari, I guess, like racing. It's similar to baseball movies. I was like, I guess I like baseball. But yeah, definitely a movie you cannot miss if you like, based on true stories also. That was the other thing that just blew me away about Gran Turismo. And I've played that game, so it was really cool seeing this whole story come to life on screen. This movie is nominated for a few Oscars. I think Paul Giamatti has a bit of a battle with Cillian Murphy for Best Actor. I loved the movie, though. This movie is The Holdovers. Fantastic movie. I'm a big Alexander Payne fan and Paul Giamatti fan. I love Sideways. Pretty much anything Giamatti is in, I will like. Barney's Version is one of my favorite underrated Paul Giamatti movies. Divine Joy Randolph won the Golden Globe for this movie. She is nominated also for Best Supporting Actress. It would be great to see her win. She's up against some pretty intense competition, but I think she might take it. She was really, really good. The movie overall is great. This one, I loved. I saw this one in theaters. Joyride, absolutely hysterical. Ashley Park, Sherry Cola, Stephanie Sue, Sabrina Wu, directed by Adele Lim. Movie is amazing. I saw it in theaters, and I just watched it at home recently. My wife watched it without me and said that she really enjoyed it. So one night I put it on for both of us, and we just sat there laughing our asses off. It's very much The Hangover. It's very raunchy, but it's very enjoyable as well. This one is a horror comedy. V, you and I saw this in theaters. It's Eli Roth's shining moment. This is Thanksgiving. I think this might be my favorite Patrick Dempsey role of all time. This is Thanksgiving. What a great time at the theaters this was. I laughed my ass off. There was definitely some fucked up kills in this movie. It was bloody. It was brutal. Give this one a shot if you like horror comedies. Going back to the horror comedy situation.
I also put it on my can't miss of the year because It was so awesome. Yes, it's a horror comedy. Yes, it's super bloody. Not everyone's going to enjoy this film, but God, is it fun. It's right up there with The Blackening in terms of horror comedy quality.
Yeah.
Give it a shot if you can.
Absolutely. This one is a franchise film. It is the 10th of a franchise film, although in the timeline of this franchise, this is actually the 3rd of the franchise. This is Saw 10. This movie was awesome, and everybody that's a Saw fan seems to agree with me. It is a can't-miss movie if you are a fan of this type of horror. V, I know you are not. So it's not a movie for you, but Saw 10 was fucking fantastic. Cannot miss if you like any of the Saw movies, especially 1 through 3.
I mean, I do like Saw 1. I didn't watch any subsequent Saw movies after that, but Saw 1 was very good. I liked the twist.
Yes, absolutely.
So that means you have 2 movies that are the 10th installment of the series on your can't miss list this year.
Indeed I do. And we might as well just jump into the other 10th one, since we're talking about 10s. This is Fast X, everybody. I loved it. I saw it in the 4DX theater. I have the 4K. I've watched it twice at home. I love Momoa. I think the movie's great while it is ridiculous. It's a lot of fun, and I'm very much looking forward to the next 2 because, of course, they can't just end it with 1.
Well, that was the most divisive movie for us this year because it's on my should-miss list. I agree with you that Jason Momoa makes that movie. He is the best part of that movie. I love that he just dialed that up to about of 11 and was like, fuck it, I'm going all out. It's so fun to watch him. Every scene he stole. But that is the most divisive movie of the year for both of us, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. Absolutely. Moving right along, this is another horror movie of mine that is divisive for a lot of people, but there's also, I think it's like a 50-50. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people loved it. My buddy Joel hated it, apparently, which I was a little upset about because I thought he would really like it, but I fucking loved it. I saw it twice in theaters. This is Evil Dead Rise, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. It's bloody. It's fucked up. It is horrifying as well. It's very scary. Great fucking times. I loved it. I have the 4K. Yeah, I love this movie. It's not up your alley, though, V, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
It's another possession movie, oddly enough, but it's very, very good.
Those are the scariest for me.
There you go. Conjuring, Hereditary.
I love those films, though. Those are some of my favorite horror movies, right there. Like,
now they are.
Yeah, because you made me watch them. So,
well,
slowly
maybe
but
Evil Dead Rise
surely.
will show up on the list at some point in the future. Now, I'm coming into my final 6 favorite films of 2023. I'm going to save my top 3 until V gets through theirs. But these last 3, I really absolutely loved. This one, V, you have on your could miss list because of, you said the editing threw you off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I will agree with you that in the first maybe like half hour of the movie, some of the editing was a little bit tough to kind of sink your teeth into, if you will. But Zac Efron was fucking amazing. I loved Lily James. I'm a massive Lily James fan here. This is The Iron Claw. I didn't know anything about this movie going in. Also, a friend of mine is in it, Chelsea Edmondson. Hey, we're shouting you out again because you're in this movie. Congratulations. You and your scene with Jeremy Allen White was pretty sweet. I love this movie. I cried 4 times in the theaters. I just was completely heartbroken by this story, but the movie I really loved, and that is The Iron Claw, everybody.
Totally understandable.
Yes. This one I took my dad to see in the 4DX theater because I was very excited for this one. I'm a big monster movie fan, and I figured my dad might want to see this one because he kind of likes some of these movies as well. He's a big Kong Skull Island fan, etc., if you will. This is Godzilla -1. This is one of the best Godzilla movies I've ever fucking seen. It is in Japanese, so if you don't mind reading subtitles, check it out. Currently, there is Godzilla -1 color out in theaters right now, so you can see it in black and white. Watch this movie. I've seen this movie twice in theaters. I went with my dad and my buddy Jose. It was excellent both times, and I highly recommend this movie. I will own this one, absolutely. This final pick of mine for 2023, before we get into my top 3 after V gets through their list, this movie I had been excited for months. I love most stories that are set on the high seas. This is The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I loved it. I saw it twice in theaters. There is no 4K release in the foreseeable future, which is very heartbreaking, so I'll just have to own the Blu-ray. But I loved this movie. It's scary, it's bloody, it's brutal. All the sequences on the ship are fantastic. Corey Hawkins is amazing. The end of this movie is fucking awesome. Watch The Last Voyage of the Demeter if you can, or if you even have any interest in it. One of my favorite films of the year. It is in my top 5. Godzilla -1, Last Voyage of the Demeter are my 4th and 5th best pictures of 2023.
Nice. It is a great film, and anyone who likes Dracula should definitely give it a shot.
Absolutely. V, what's on your list before we get into the top 3 of each of our lists?
As we've said, there are several crossovers across the Spider-Verse, Dungeons & Dragons, Renfield, The Blackening, etc. Those are all phenomenal films that were also on my can't-miss list. So the movies that you haven't mentioned yet that are on my can't-miss of the year, one of them is A Haunting in Venice, even though it was on your could-miss list. And in fact, because it was the best one of the trilogy, it bumped itself up to the can't-miss. It was so good, especially compared to Death on the Nile. Every subsequent movie in this trilogy got better.
Yeah.
I loved this film. Kelly Riley, who plays Beth Dutton on Yellowstone, was great as well. Everyone was good. It was creepy. It was fun. I've seen it twice now. I liked it both times. Highly recommend this movie. Kenneth Branagh, man, he's a good director.
Yes, absolutely.
The next movie on my can't miss list is an animated film that took me by surprise. It's a Netflix-produced movie. It's called Nimona.
Oh, yeah.
It was fantastic. I immediately went and bought the graphic novel for my niece because Ainsley and I watched this movie together. We both loved it. We both cried. And so I immediately bought the graphic novel for her to read, and then we read the graphic novel together. It's also very good, and I highly recommend this film. I'm so pumped that it was nominated for an Oscar. It absolutely deserved it. I hope that gives it a lot more traction in terms of people watching it. Oh, go watch this film. It's so good.
I've been meaning to. I know Jason Mantzoukas from How Did This Get Made was a big fan of it as well.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yes.
This movie, I'm kind of surprised that it didn't get any Oscar nominations. It definitely had the recipe for it, so I'm kind of surprised at how many people hate this movie. I really loved it. This is a biopic. Adam Driver was great. Penelope Cruz was unbelievable. She should have gotten a Best Supporting Actress nomination. I'm super bummed that she didn't. She portrayed grief better than I think anyone I've seen. This is
Wow.
Ferrari. It is Michael
yeah.
Mann's movie. It is more about Enzo Ferrari and his life and a segment of his life than it is racing. This is not necessarily a racing movie, honestly. There's only about 20 minutes of racing. The rest of it is more of a family drama. It's very, very good. I highly recommend it. Another biopic that I was very surprised by that I loved, Nyad.
Oh, yeah.
It's on Netflix. Annette Bening has been nominated for Best Actress. I could go either way. I don't know if she deserves the nomination, but Jodie Foster as Best Supporting Actress absolutely deserved the nomination. She embodies the definition of supporting, both in the role itself, but also as an actress. So I'm really stoked for her. I love Jodie Foster. I'm so stoked that she was nominated as a member of the LGBT community, playing a member of the LGBT community. She was nominated for an Oscar, which is one of the first times that's ever happened, which is so cool.
Oh, sweet.
And I just love Jodie Foster in general. I'm a big fan of hers. Right now I'm watching her in the new True Detective season, which is awesome. And it's so dark and cool.
We've been meaning to start that one. I think we'll do that in the next few days.
Definitely start it. It's great. The first episode, it's a bit of a setup episode, so you just really need to watch it. So they set the foundation, and then the subsequent 2 episodes that I've seen so far are great, and it just keeps getting better.
Awesome.
The most recent movie I've watched, the last addition to any of my lists, because I just watched it last night. I heard good things about this film, but I hadn't gotten around to watching it in theaters, so I finally watched it on Netflix last night because it's now streaming on Netflix. Paul Dano, Seth Rogen, Nick Offerman in Dumb Money.
Oh, yeah, I saw that was on Netflix now.
Not only is it very good, but it's a must-watch similar to The Big Short. People should know how the stock market really works. Dumb money is a term used on Wall Street for laymen trying to invest in Wall Street.
Ah, okay.
Because it's run by hedge fund managers. Anyone who thinks that stock markets or Wall Street isn't completely fixed, please watch this film. It'll piss you off. It was very frustrating because this is real life. This is based on a true story. This is based on the GameStop stock run that happened last year that was bonkers. And they very quickly made a film about it. And it was great. Paul Dano's really good in it. Nick Offerman as a douchebag hedge fund manager was awesome. He's so good in more serious roles. And I had a lot of fun with this film. So if anybody likes The Big Short, definitely watch Dumb Money. It's very, very good.
I will.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer and was like, I'll wait for that one to stream. So now that it's streaming, I will watch it.
And that's the way I felt as well. It's not a movie you had to see in theaters. It's not action-oriented or anything, but it's certainly worth watching on streaming now.
Awesome. And I was actually a big fan of the Big Short.
There you go. And then the last 2 movies I have are both rom-coms. I loved both of them. They're very high quality. I was very surprised by both of them. The first one is Red, White, and Royal Blue. It's based on a book. It's an LGBT rom-com. Everyone in it's great. Uma Thurman plays one of the main characters' mother, and she's really good. Both the leads are fantastic. They have wonderful chemistry. It's a very important film because it's an LGBT movie about 2 gay young men, and I had so much fun. I've seen it twice already and absolutely loved it. I think I would have really enjoyed it as a series just so we got more of the characters and their background, and I would have just loved more of this movie, so definitely recommend it. And then
sweet,
my last movie that you can't miss. This rom-com surprised the hell out of me. It's a lot of fun. Sam Heughan, Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and Celine Dion are in this film.
Oh, yeah.
It's so sweet. It's great, and it's one of the best rom-coms of the year. I highly recommend it. It's actually a Netflix-produced movie. This is called Love Again.
Oh, I remember when that came out. I wanted to take my wife to see it, but we never got a chance to it.
If she hasn't seen it yet, she needs to watch it immediately. It's so sweet and good. Celine Dion does the soundtrack, which is also a lot of fun.
Nice.
It's one of the best rom-coms of the year. Definitely give it a shot.
Awesome. I believe we will check that one out as soon as possible.
Nice.
Well, I believe we're getting into our top 3 can't miss movies of the year.
We had very similar top movies last year, so I'm very curious to see how this finally shakes out.
We did actually have very similar top movies last year. Something tells me our 1 and 2 are the same this year as well.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. You want to start us off or should I?
I'll go ahead and start us off. My number 3 favorite movie of the year that is absolutely can't miss by anyone is the Pixar-produced Elemental.
That's your third?
I loved that movie so much. I've seen it 3 times already. I've been wanting to watch it a 4th time for 2 months, but I'm trying to pace myself.
Oh, yes.
I loved that film, and it's one of my all-time favorite Pixar movies.
Wow, wonderful. Interesting placement, to be honest with you.
All right, well.
My third favorite film of 2023 is a movie that my wife and I saw. My wife did not enjoy, but I very much enjoyed. There's a lot of Oscar buzz for it. It is nominated for Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, I believe adapted screenplay, costumes, cinematography. This is Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Poor Things, everybody. This is not a movie for everybody, but it is an absolutely cannot miss piece of cinema. I loved it. I went and bought the book immediately so that I could read the book before watching Poor Things again to compare and contrast. I loved the movie. I laughed. I got emotional. It is a beautiful movie, and Emma Stone was fucking fantastic. And Mark Ruffalo, I think this is my favorite Mark Ruffalo role that I've ever seen him in.
That's awesome. I still need to give it a watch, but it is on my Oscar list, so in the next couple weeks I'll be watching it.
Sweet. I am very curious to see what you think about it, V.
Yeah. My second movie of the year, it was so important to our pop culture dialogue last year, but more importantly, it was a great movie that was well acted and just completely took everybody by surprise because the trailer was so different than the movie. And everybody who saw the original teaser was like, what is this silliness going to be? But instead it had heart, it had emotion, it had a wonderful and important message. My number 2 movie of the year is Barbie.
Interesting. I guess I didn't have that on any of my lists.
I don't think you saw it,
Completely forgot that I absolutely saw Barbie.
Oh.
My wife and I went and saw Barbie. We went opening week. Yeah, I saw Barbie.
That's right. I forgot. Because you hadn't talked about it since then. I forgot you'd seen it.
Yeah, I forgot I saw it too.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah. Barbie was fine. I'll put that, I guess, in my movies you could miss list. I didn't think that it was fine. I thought America Ferrera was good. I loved Kate McKinnon. I thought Margot Robbie was fine. I don't know anybody else that saw it more than once. It was all right. You know, it was fine.
Fair. I just think it's so important to our overall discourse. And it's so important for young girls and women to see that sort of representation in the theater. And I'm so glad it was made. And I had a lot of fun.
I'll agree with you. I'll fully agree with you on there.
Okay.
What I don't agree with is Ryan Gosling being nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
He absolutely should not have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
I do not agree with that in any way, shape, or form.
No.
I don't agree with the I Am Ken song being nominated for Best Song.
Me either.
So, it's a movie you could miss for me, but it was enjoyable. I didn't hate the movie.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. I'm surprised at your top 2 so far.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 movie is a wonderful piece of cinema that just about everybody in the world saw, and rightfully so. This movie is based off of American Prometheus, the novel, which is based off of Oppenheimer, and that is the movie that I put in my number 2 slot for movies you cannot miss. I saw this movie twice in IMAX. I now have the 4K. I've watched it once at home, so I've seen it 3 times total. I think it is an absolutely wonderful, fantastic piece of American history. I'm a big history buff and World War II history buff, if anybody didn't know that already. This movie is a wonderfully intense, beautifully shot, wonderfully written piece of cinema. That is my number 2 movie that you cannot miss for the year 2023. And this movie is nominated for several Academy Awards. I'm going to tell you right now, Robert Downey Jr. better walk away with the Oscar for this.
Yes.
Cillian Murphy. As much as I loved The Holdovers and Paul Giamatti, Cillian Murphy deserves the Oscar for Oppenheimer. Christopher Nolan deserves Best Director. This deserves a lot of accolades. It was one of the best movies that I saw last year, and I know V and I were very back and forth about it, but I love this movie, and we'll see what happens at the Oscars this year.
I am shocked that it's not your number 1 film, which means I'm going to be shocked by your number 1 film. It is unequivocally my number 1 film of the year. Oppenheimer is a phenomenal piece of cinema what it accomplished, how the story was told. Every aspect of this film is Oscar worthy. It deserves every single award that it's been nominated for, from score to cinematography to acting to best directing and best picture. This is my pick of the year. Oppenheimer. Everyone see this movie.
Fantastic. The thing is, Oppenheimer and this movie battled it out a lot in my brain. The only reason why I put this movie as my number one movie was because I had zero expectations for this movie. The trailer sucked, and I did not care to see this movie. But there was nothing else playing, so I figured, why not? I'll spend my afternoon going to see this movie. After I saw this movie for the first time, I saw it 2 other times in theaters. I've now watched it twice on streaming. I've seen it 5 times. I cry every time. This is Disney Pixar's Elemental. That is my favorite movie of the year, as is Oppenheimer. So there's 2 top spots, but you can't have 2 movies in the number 1 spot. So I put Elemental only because of the fact that how much it surprised me and how beautifully animated and wonderfully the story was told, on top of watching the documentary of Peter Sohn discuss how he came up with the idea. And again, I love Oppenheimer. I'm a Christopher Nolan nut. I pretty much worship Christopher Nolan. But Elemental got me so intensely in my heart that it had to be my number 1 movie of the year.
That's great. I like it. I totally get where you're coming from. Like I said, it's one of my all-time favorite Pixar movies. I think the reason why it was number 3 for me versus Barbie and Oppenheimer is that it's nothing we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Whereas Oppenheimer and Barbie are, which is why they were pushed up the list a little further. In terms of rewatchability, Elemental for sure.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. And I don't think either of us are upset by the ranking of our respective top 3 films.
Not at all.
You can't go wrong with any of them.
No, I agree. A little disagree about Barbie, but I agree with the other 2. Oppenheimer is a monumental piece of cinema. I loved Elemental so much more than I thought I would, and I turned a lot of people on to it. V, you included.
That's true.
And like I said, Oppenheimer and Elemental were in my head for a long time. Like, which one am I going to put as number 1? Elemental just grabbed me in a way I didn't think it would, and that's why I put it on my number 1.
Fair. I respect that opinion.
Sweet.
All right, everyone. Those are our lists of 2023. We hope that you've not only enjoyed the episode, but also gotten a lot of good recommendations of movies to watch or avoid. And now we are going to do something new, something we didn't do in last year's recap episode. We have a couple of awards to give out.
Yeah, we do.
There are 4 categories. John, do you want me to start?
Yeah, why not?
We're going to start off with the intro to movies, a category that I absolutely love, a category that both of us have worked in, actually. Unfortunately, I didn't dive far enough into this line of work. I should have, because I still love them to this day. This is Best Trailer of the Year.
Yeah.
John, you want to tell us what your pick is?
Sure. I actually have 2 for Best Trailer of the Year. First one is going to go to Killers of the Flower Moon. I thought that trailer was fucking wonderful, fantastic, and beautiful. And then the second trailer, I'm going to go with Oppenheimer, for sure. The Oppenheimer trailer was awesome.
My best trailer of the year was also Killers of the Flower Moon.
Ah, wonderful.
The music, the cuts, everything about that trailer is so badass.
Yes,
Definitely
it is.
Go on YouTube and give that a watch.
I'm going to move this along and go with most disappointing film for me. I have 2 of them.
Me too.
All right, perfect. One of them I mentioned in my should miss because of the fact that there was a reveal that just irritated the hell out of me, and the last hour and 15 was so bad. Saltburn is one of the most disappointing films of 2023 for me. The second one was a movie that I had been looking forward to for over a year. I saw the trailer way back in 2022, around Thanksgiving, and the trailer just actually made me cry because it just looked beautiful, the song was great, but the movie sucked. And that is Disney's Wish, everybody.
Aw, sad face.
Very sad face.
My number 1 is Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh.
Because the trailer was so good, as we just talked about, that then the real thing just disappointed the hell out of me, and so that's why it is the most disappointing film for me of the year. My number 2 is because the first 2 films in this series were so good. I was really disappointed that the third one was as awful as it was. It's on my movies you should miss list of the year. It is Creed 3. And on the flip side of that, the most surprising film of the year, I have 2 of them. John, how many do you have?
I have 3, actually. They surprised me.
Uh-huh.
And those are The Flash,
Okay.
The Iron Claw.
Really? Oh, man. From the trailer, I knew it was going to be... I thought it was going to be more award season candy than it was. I always thought that was going to be a good film.
I never saw a trailer for it.
Oh,
so
that's why.
I never knew. I didn't know anything about it other than Zac Efron was in it. And the most surprising film for me is my number 1 pick of 2023, Elemental.
Totally fair.
Fee, what are yours?
My 2, I'm actually surprised this didn't win your most surprising award. Gran Turismo.
Yes.
I watched trailers for it and thought it looked so dumb. There was no way I was going to watch this film until you told me to. And then I watched it and was blown away. I love David Harbour. He's a great actor, and I'm so happy that we both enjoyed this film as much as we did and got a chance to watch it in theaters. So that is my first most surprising film of the year. My second is also on your list, Elemental. God, those trailers sucked.
They really did. They were terrible.
They were so awful.
Didn't give you anything.
No, and everything about that movie is great. I'm so glad it got nominated for a couple things. Should have gotten nominated for a couple more, but that is what it is. But yes, most surprising films of the year for me, Gran Turismo and Elemental.
Awesome. And our final category is Best Theatrical Experience. V, take it away. I'm curious.
I'm wondering if you're going to go... serious or 4DX ridiculous in this category?
Well, I've got 3. So.
Okay. My best theatrical experience, it's one film. It is also my best movie of the year. I'm so glad I saw it in IMAX. In any way you watch this film, now, I'm sure they're going to re-release it in theaters now that it's nominated for Best Picture.
It's already re-released in
There we go. Exactly. Yeah. Go ahead and go to the theaters if you can over this next month. Oppenheimer is without a doubt the best theatrical experience for me for 2023.
Hell yeah. Oppenheimer is definitely on my best experience theatrically as well. I saw it twice in IMAX, once by myself and once with my father-in-law. Absolutely fantastic. The other 2 are 4DX experiences. Godzilla -1 in 4DX with my father was absolutely a fucking blast. Every stomp of Godzilla shook us all around. The sound was amazing. The flashing lights with every explosion and the mist that we were blown in our faces every time he screamed was fucking fantastic. Absolutely loved that one. And the final best theatrical experience, absolutely 100% has to go to Fast X in 4DX. Because that was just so much fun. I loved, and that may be why I love the movie so much. I don't know, but yeah, Fast X was great in 4DX. So those were my 3 best experiences of 2023.
So I'm saw
you
that
can't
coming.
even find the words.
Oh God, that's awesome.
All right, everybody, that is our wrap-up for the year 2023. Excellent movies, bad movies, all right movies all around. Can't wait to see what 2024 brings us. It looks like we're going to be off to a pretty good start with a few movies coming out in the next few weeks and the next few months. If you want to follow along with us, we will be jumping back into our regularly scheduled program next week, and we are going to be discussing classic comedies. V, what are you choosing?
I am choosing the legendary Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant led Bringing Up Baby.
Nice. I've never seen it.
Oh, I'm so stoked that you get to watch this film. It is from 1938. And you can watch it if you rent it from any of the classic streaming services, including Amazon Prime.
Nice. That's likely where I'll watch it.
And what classic comedy did you pick, John?
I picked a movie from 8 years prior to your release. This movie came out in 1930. This stars the very, very famous Marx Brothers. This is Animal Crackers, everybody. And this is only available to rent on streaming services, Apple or Amazon as well. So if you'd like to follow along, do follow along with us.
All right. I've never seen a Marx Brothers movie, so I'm very excited.
Oh, sweet. I'm excited to introduce you to this one. This is a very entertaining movie.
Great.
And that wraps us up here again, everybody, for the roundup of 2023. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do rate, review, subscribe. Follow us on all socials, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Interact with us. Let us know what you think of the episodes, what you don't like about the episodes. Let us know if any of our movies on the should-miss list are on your can't-miss list. Love to know what you guys think of our lists this year. Thank you guys again for joining us. And as always, we like to close out Movies You Missed podcast with film as a form of art. And in art, all opinions are valid, except if you think
either of our lists have any basis in objective reality or fact.
So true. So true. I love it.
But let us know who you agree with more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very curious. All right. We'll see you next week. Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.